One insult
like
at the
you
counter,
don't belong
one
here.
truth later,
Take your
her
bag
entire
and
career
leave
collapsed.
immediately.
The first time Arav walked back into Mehta and Sons handloom in Mumbai, nobody even let him stand near the main counter. It was peak wedding season, Yar. The whole street outside was chaos. Honking rickshaws, flower vendors shouting, "Jenda fool! Fresh Jenda!" Dull beats drifting from some barat 2 lanes away. Inside the showroom, though, everything looked polished and perfect. Glass shelves, bright lights, rich families choosing langas like they were picking jewels. And then there was Arav, simple cotton kurta, a little faded at the elbows, old jeans, worn-out chappals, and a plain cloth bag on his shoulder. To most people in that room, he looked like a delivery guy who took a wrong turn. Before he could even say, "Good evening," the showroom manager, Nisha Kapoor, shot him that quick, up-and-down look people use when they've already decided your worth. "Baya, can you please stand to the side?" she said, voice sweet but sharp. "You're blocking my actual customers." A couple from Bandra in designer clothes glanced at him, then at each other, with that tiny smirk that stings more than shouting. Arav didn't argue. He just nodded and moved, letting her guide him to a plastic chair near the storeroom door, the same chair where couriers and helpers usually wait. As he sat, his eyes wandered across the walls lined with framed photographs. Old black and white pictures of the first Mehta textile shop, men at handlooms in some dusty Gujarat village, and one large portrait of the founder, Devraj Mehta, standing proudly with a little boy next to him. For a second, Arav almost smiled. The boy's face looked uncannily like his own childhood photos. But Nisha's voice cut through his thoughts. "Just sit there, okay? This place is very high-end. Not everyone comes here to actually buy." Her words landed like a slap, but Arav stayed quiet, fingers loosely interlocked, eyes calm. He could feel the sting in his chest, sure, but there was something else too, a strange mix of sadness and curiosity. He had grown up hearing that Mehta and Sons was built so that both rich and poor could wear good cloth with dignity. Sitting on that plastic chair, pushed to the side in his own family's showroom, Arav realized just how far the place had drifted from that promise. And he also knew, though nobody in that room had a clue yet, that tonight was not going to be just another evening of selling saris. By late afternoon, the showroom was buzzing. A new wave of customers came in. Gold bangles, branded handbags, perfume that filled the whole air-conditioned room. The moment Nisha saw them, her whole body language changed. The same woman who had just pushed Arav onto that plastic chair now turned into Madam Manager Kapoor. Back straight, smile perfectly measured, voice suddenly soft like she'd swallowed honey. "Welcome, sir. Welcome, madam. Please have a seat. Would you like some chai or cold coffee?" she sang out, almost gliding across the floor. From his corner near the storeroom, Arav watched the switch happen in seconds. It was almost like watching those actors on TV who change expression as soon as the camera turns on. A young couple from Delhi walked in next, discussing destination weddings in Udaipur, loud enough for half the shop to hear. Nisha rushed to them as if some Bollywood producer had just entered. "We have exclusive lehenga pieces straight from our best karigars," she said, conveniently forgetting those karigars lived in dusty villages, stitching till midnight. When an older woman in a simple cotton sari, with mehendi still fresh on her hands, stepped in shyly and said, "Betty, my son is getting engaged. I heard Meta cloth is strong. It lasts years. Can I see something not too expensive?" Nisha's smile didn't even reach her eyes. "Auntie, our starting range itself might be too high for you. Maybe you can try the shops near the station. They have many options," she replied, pointing her toward the door, with that fake politeness that hurts more than outright insult. Arav felt his jaw tighten. He remembered his Dadaji sitting on a sharp pie in their Gujarat village, telling him, "Our cloth must be strong enough that a farmer and a businessman can both feel proud wearing it." Right now in this glossy Mumbai showroom, it felt like that promise had been thrown out with the old ledgers. He stood up slowly and walked to the main counter. "Can I see your handloom Sherwani pieces?" he asked, voice steady. Nisha didn't even hide her disbelief this time. Handloom Sherwani? She repeated, almost laughing. Do you know the price, Bhaiya? One piece is more than 3 months' salary for many people. I think you'll be more comfortable in the other market. Arav didn't flinch. Show me your best one, he said, eyes calmly scanning the glass shelves. And also 10 sets of simple kurta pajama fabric for workers. Same quality, same brand. For a second, the room went quiet. Even the deli couple looked up from their phones. Nisha crossed her arms. In her head, this was just another man trying to prove a point. Sir, we don't usually take such big orders without a proper advance, she said, adding a little smirk. Nowadays, people pay with borrowed money just to look rich on Instagram, you know? Arav simply took out his phone, opened his banking app, and asked for the store's UPI ID. The notification tone rang on the cashier's phone a moment later. Full amount, paid in one shot. The cashier, a young guy named Rohan with tired eyes and an honest face, glanced at the screen, then at Arav, and his eyebrows rose when he saw the sender's name. Arav Devraj Mehta. His lips parted as if he wanted to say something. Then he shut them quickly, not sure what to do. He just pressed his lips together and gave Arav a tiny, respectful nod that no one else noticed. Nisha, meanwhile, was stuck between surprise and ego. She stared at the confirmation message, then forced out a laugh. Okay, sir. Money is money, she said, shrugging. But you know, class cannot be bought on UPI, Some things you either have or you don't. Her words were sugar on top and poison underneath. Arav heard every bit of it, but chose to let it slide. For now. He looked around at the other staff. Most of them avoided his eyes, pretending to fix sari folds or rearrange dupattas. Only Rohan met his gaze for half a second, a mix of confusion and quiet respect in his eyes, as if he was silently saying, I don't know who you are, Bai, but I can see you're not what she thinks. Standing there amid silken spotlights, Arav realized he wasn't just watching how they treated him. He was watching how they treated anyone who didn't look rich enough. And deep inside, a decision was already forming, slow but solid, like the first knot tied on a new loom. Tonight, this place was going to be tested just as much as he was. By closing time, the noise in the showroom had softened into a tired murmur. Staff were folding leftover saris. The deli couple had left with 3 massive bags and a, thank you, Nisha ji, you really understand class. And the auntie who'd been sent away was long gone, probably at some small shop near the station. Arav was still there, quietly scrolling through his phone, like he had nothing better to do. Nisha kept glancing at him, irritated that he hadn't just disappeared. In her head, she was thinking, God knows from where he got that kind of money, maybe some lottery or family land sold off. But this type of man, you can always tell, they don't belong in places like this. Just then, the glass door chimed again. A plain white sedan stopped outside. Not some fancy German car, but every staff member suddenly straightened up. Sir A.A. Gay, the cashier whispered. In walked an older man in a simple but crisp kurta, salt and pepper hair, gentle but sharp eyes. Beside him, an elderly accountant with a leather folder hugged to his chest. Mr. Iyer, who had been with the Metas longer than most of the staff had been alive. Nisha's whole body jumped into performance mode. She rushed forward, palu adjusted, smile turned up to max. Good evening, Mr. Anand Mehta, sir. We had excellent sales today, sir. I was just about to send you the numbers, she said in her best corporate English voice. Anand didn't even look at the sales report she tried to hand him. His eyes were already scanning the showroom, past the glass, past the mannequins, straight to the plastic chair near the storeroom, which was empty. Arav had quietly stood up. For a second, Anand just looked at him, and something like years of distance and a whole lot of unsaid words flashed between them. Then, in front of everyone, Anand smiled the way only an uncle who's missed his nephew can smile, walked past Nisha as if she were part of the furniture, and pulled Arav into a tight hug. Finally, he said, loud enough for the entire staff to hear, Mumbai has seen the face of its new managing director. You can imagine the silence, Yar. One of the sales girls dropped a hanger. Rohan's mouth literally fell open. Nisha's smile froze on her face like someone had hit pause. Managing what? She stammered, looking from Anand to Arav and back again, her brain trying to reject what her ears had just heard. Anand turned to the staff, his arm still around Arav's shoulder. "This is Arav Devraj Mehta," he announced calmly. "My younger brother's son, the boy who grew up in our village looms, who spent the last few years living with our weavers, learning every step of this business from thread to showroom. From today, he will lead Mehta and Sons." Mr. Iyer nodded slowly, eyes shining with a sort of proud relief, like he'd been waiting for this moment since that little boy in the photo was running around the old shop barefoot. The same name that had flashed on the UPI payment a few hours earlier was now echoing in the room, and every staff member who had seen it but stayed quiet felt a knot form in their stomach. Nisha's face went from confusion to pure panic. In a small voice, she tried to laugh it off. "Sir, I had no idea. He came dressed like, I thought he was just—" Arav cut in, his tone still soft but finally carrying weight. "Just what, Nisha ji?" he asked, looking straight at her. "A courier boy? A driver? Someone who doesn't deserve to stand where your actual customers stand?" His words weren't shouted, but each one landed with the same force as a slap, because everyone had heard her say those exact things earlier. The deli couple wasn't there now, but the memory of their smirks was. The auntie who'd been sent away wasn't there either, but her disappointed face was suddenly very present in the room. Anand glanced at the plastic chair in the corner, then back at Nisha. "Today, the future head of this company was made to sit there," he said quietly. "But I am less worried about that, and more worried about how many real customers you've made sit there in your mind, even when they were standing right in front of you." No one dared to move. Rohan swallowed, guilt and relief mixed together. He knew he hadn't treated Arav badly, but he also knew he hadn't stopped it. Nisha, meanwhile, felt her legs go weak. All day she had been performing class, and now that very performance was stripping her of any dignity she thought she had. Arav looked around at the whole team, not just at her. "Tell me honestly," he said, "how many of you saw what was happening and chose to stay quiet? Because it's not just her problem then, it's our culture's problem. And this showroom is just a mirror." In that moment, Mehta and Sons didn't feel like a shop anymore. It felt like a small courtroom in the middle of Mumbai, where the verdict wasn't just about one rude manager. It was about what kind of people everyone in that room had decided to become. For a moment after Arav spoke, nobody knew where to look. Some stared at the floor, some at the plastic chair, and Nisha just stood there with her carefully built manager image collapsing in her own head. Anand was the first to break the silence. "This kind of behavior cannot be tolerated," he said, anger finally showing in his voice. "We should terminate her contract right now." You could see a few staff almost relax at that, like, "Han, okay, we'll blame one person and move on." But Arav shook his head. "Chachu, firing her will make everyone feel safe again. They'll think the problem went out with her, but it didn't start with her alone." He turned to Nisha, and his tone was firm now, no cushioning. "Nisha, today you insulted me. That's one thing, but more dangerous is how easily you insulted that auntie, how quickly you decided who is our customer and who belongs near the station. That thinking is poison for a brand like ours." Nisha's eyes filled up, not just from fear of losing a job, but from something deeper. I grew up being thrown out of shops like this," she blurted out, words tumbling over each other. "My mother used to save for months for one sari, and shopkeepers talked to her like she was begging. I swore I'd never be treated like that again. So I thought if I stood on this side of the counter, I had to be strict, maintain standard. It wasn't an excuse and everyone knew it, but it was a window into how hurt people sometimes start hurting others." Arav took a breath. "I'm not here to destroy you, Nishaji," he said quietly, "but I also can't pretend nothing happened. So you have two choices. You can resign tonight, take your experience letter, and go find some other high-end showroom to manage, or you can stay, but not as the untouchable manager on a swivel chair. You will go back to being a floor salesperson for a while. You will attend every single training we set up on treating customers with dignity and," he paused, letting it land, You will come with me to our village units. You will sit in those small houses, drink chai with the women who weave these saris, and see how much respect they deserve. The room went even quieter, if that was possible. This wasn't revenge. It was something heavier, responsibility. Nisha nodded slowly, tears finally rolling down. I'll stay, she whispered. If you still allow, I'll stay and learn. Arav turned to the rest. And the rest of you, he said, scanning their faces. No more hiding behind I was just following orders. From tomorrow, every customer will be offered water, a seat, and respect, whether they come in a Mercedes or on a cycle. Understood? Heads bobbed all around, some out of fear, some out of genuine relief that someone had finally said it. Then he looked at Rohan. You saw what was happening and I could see you were uneasy, Arav said. From now on, you'll be team leader on the floor. If you ever feel our values are being broken, you have direct access to me or Mr. Iyer. No need to keep quiet and feel helpless. Rohan's eyes went wide. No one had ever trusted him like that before. Later that night, as they locked the shutter, Arav walked over to that ugly plastic chair by the storeroom. He picked it up himself and carried it to the back, then pointed to the empty space near the entrance. From tomorrow, he told the staff, this is not the waiting area for delivery boys. This will be our common seating for anyone who walks in, tired from the Mumbai heat. We'll put a small steel lota of water, some glasses, and one board. On that board, hand-painted the next day by a local sign artist, were simple words in Hindi and English. Yahan aane wala har insan mehman hai. Every person who walks in here is our guest. It wasn't a big corporate strategy, no fancy slogan, just a small change in where people were allowed to sit. But everyone in that showroom could feel that. From that night, the way Mehta and Sons defined class had shifted forever. By the time a few months passed, Mehta and Sons didn't feel like the same showroom anymore. If you walked in on a sweaty Mumbai afternoon, you'd see something small but very different. A rickshaw driver and a young lawyer sitting on the same bench near the entrance, both holding steel glasses of water, both being greeted with the same "Namaste, sir, namaste, auntie." Sometimes that auntie from before also came back, the one Nisha had pushed out. This time, it was Nisha herself who brought her a chair and said, Auntie, today you'll choose first. No rush, Thik Hai. Her English had calmed down, her tone had softened. She still wore nice saris, still managed targets, but the sharpness in her eyes had turned into something humbler. Tired maybe, but kinder. One evening, Arav sat in his grandfather's village, under a fan that squeaked on every rotation, surrounded by women weaving bright borders on dull old looms. He held up his phone, showing them a video from the Mumbai showroom. A school teacher, a shopkeeper, and an NRI all standing in the same queue, all being offered chai. Dadaji wanted this, he thought, a small smile creeping in. Cloth that doesn't ask for your bank balance before giving you dignity. And I'll tell you honestly, Yar, that's the part that stays with you. Not the twist that the poor guy turned out to be the boss, but the question it leaves hanging in your own mind. How many Aravs have we pushed to the corner? How many aunties have we quietly sent toward the station? And if one day life suddenly puts you on the other side of the counter, will you use that power to do what was done to you, or to finally break the circle? In Arav's story, the biggest lesson is not that the poor man turned out to be the boss, but that dignity should never depend on a kurta, a surname, or a bank balance. In real life too, many of us have sat on that plastic chair in the corner, quietly swallowing insult just to keep the peace. And sometimes when life finally puts us on the other side of the counter, we are tempted to do to others what was once done to us. But as our elders say, you reap what you sow, and true gold fears no fire. Real strength is not in judging who looks rich or educated. Real strength is in refusing to join that game at all. It is in speaking up gently when we see unfairness, in treating the driver, the maid, the security guard, and the CEO with the same basic respect, and in refusing to stay trapped in toxic, humiliating spaces just because log kya kahenge. This story is an invitation to look at our own hearts and ask, in my home, my shop, my office, who am I quietly pushing to the corner? If this touched something inside you, share your thoughts in the comments, or tell us about a time you saw prejudice being broken. Hit like if you want more stories like this, and subscribe so you don't miss the next journey of courage and change. May you and your family stay safe, peaceful, and respected, no matter which side of the counter you stand on.